What is happening, YouTube family? Just want to come at y'all real quick this morning. Touch on a few headlines I've been seeing. First and foremost, want to touch on this Paul George situation. So, I saw that Paul George recently signed a contract extension, the maximum extension, 5 years, $190 million. Then you look across town, down the other side of the locker room, and you see the Los Angeles Lakers have extended Anthony Davis 5 years, $190 million. Now, both of them got the same maximum extension. But now let's see about who are they as players. Now, I would beg anybody to say that Paul George is even on the level of an Anthony Davis. See, this is what separates the men from the boys. You know, this is what separates the Lakers organization and franchise from an organization like the Clippers franchise. That's what separates them. Because the Clippers just maxed out Paul George. And I'm just trying to figure out, I'm really trying to figure out why they maxed his contract out. Because what has he proven? Because he's a name? I'm trying to figure it out. Like, what has Paul George even done in his career? He's been an all-star. You know, he had some very good years in Indiana. He went to OKC. He was there with 1 year. Him and Russ couldn't even beat Utah, fam. They couldn't even beat Utah. And that's a young Utah team. Mike Conley wasn't even on that Utah team. You basically let a rook handle y'all. You couldn't beat Utah. So now you come team up with Kawhi like this is some kind of fantastic duo and had the whole NBA salivating like this was some kind of super team or some kind of dream team or something. And I was saying it the whole time. Do you actually think the Clippers could beat the Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis against Kawhi Leonard and Paul George? Are you serious? So let me ask you this. I know Paul George. He got $190 million for doing what? I know it's a hard shot and everything. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some partners together, and we're gonna get out and we're gonna go hoop today, and we're gonna see how many of us can shoot the ball off the side of the backboard. Because it's not the easiest thing to do. You know what I'm saying? It's not the easiest thing to do to shoot a ball off the side of a backboard. So, mad props to Paul George for being able to hit that trick shot and shoot a ball off the side of the backboard and then go blame Doc Rivers for his play. When I saw the comments from Paul George sitting up here trying to blame Doc Rivers for his failures, I thought it was totally ridiculous. Now, I will say this about Doc. He's an old school coach, and he could have made some adjustments in this series. Like, I could have seen, should have probably played Zubac a little bit more because Trez, the combination of them just wasn't working out at the time. So sometimes you got to switch your style up and do something different to see if that's going to bring about any kind of change. Because when you up 3-1, and then all of a sudden you just losing and having the team coming back against you like that, you can't continue to do the same thing. So I will say that. But for Paul George to sit up here and to say and try to blame it on Doc Rivers and say, I'm not a J.J. Redick, I'm not a pin down player, run off screens, that's not my game. What is your game? ISO? And I absolutely love Doc Rivers' comeback to what he said. Because Ty Lue is the coach now. And he's like, well, hell, Ty Lue was sitting right beside me, so how much of a change do you think it's going to be? See, the NBA does have X's and O's, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of X's and O's involved, and, certain coaches run the offense a certain way, and they had certain schematics they have for their defense. But I would still say that 50% of being a coach in the NBA is about managing egos, managing personalities, and being able to have the team have good chemistry not just on the court, but even off the court, like team meetings, functions, and things like that, and just having everybody to get along. Because even at a regular job, whether you're in the corporate world, whether you're in a factory on the line, no matter what it is, if you are not getting along with your coworkers, especially in a team environment, because we all know that team means together, everyone achieves more, then you are not going to be successful. And that's just plain and simple. You are not going to be successful if, I'm not saying everybody got to be buddy on and off the court, because clearly Kevin Durant and Westbrook was never good friends, but they were a hell of a duo while they were together, even though they ultimately couldn't get the job done and bring about a ring to OKC. I mean, they were knocking on the door. They could have beat LeBron that one time in the Heat, but they couldn't. And then they had Golden State down 3-1, but they couldn't finish the job. That would have been a hell of a series to see Westbrook and Durant all grown up against LeBron and Kyrie. I would have liked to see that, but, you know, it just wasn't meant to be. But at the end of the day, back to this Paul George situation, don't go blaming the coach for your failures. Because, like I was saying, the coaches have a lot to do with the X and O's, but it has to do with the managing the personalities. So, basically, you know, by Doc allowing Kawhi to have a special treatment of him being down in San Diego and being late for the plane and just basically doing what he wants to and load management how he wants to, it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can have preferential treatment sometimes, but you got to pay the cost to be the boss. Paul George, what have you done besides hitting the back of a backboard? What have you done besides hitting the back of the side of a backboard? And they call you playoff P. What have you done in the playoffs? And I hate to say this, I'm not one to be too quick to agree with Skip Bayless, but I'm just gonna have to call you George Paul. I'm gonna have to call you George Paul until you prove yourself. Until you do something, you George Paul to me. So instead of PG, we're gonna call you GP. Or maybe that PG-13 might have been the right rating for you because you play like a kid. Maybe you can step up to an R level one day. But anyway, with all that being said, what I really want to see is the Lakers versus the Clippers, and you can clearly see who the best franchise is. You can clearly see who signed the right players to the right extensions and where did the right people want to land in the city of LA. And it's definitely not Paul George. I think there's a huge mistake by the Clippers. I mean, Paul George has never really shown you anything. He said this is his year. Now, for a lot of people talking about telling what LeBron James comments were on the bubble being the hardest championship and things like that, and people saying, when you're in the bubble, blah, 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 it was so easy, you're not on the road. But look what happened to Paul George. He broke down and went through a depression just being down there. A lot of people can't handle being away from their families and things like that. You know, I'm a former serviceman, so I've been through basic training and I've been deployed and I've been overseas and I've been in certain situations that a lot of people may not have been in. And with all that being said, you're going to miss your family when you're in these type of situations. But guess what? You can never, ever take your eye off the prize of an ultimate goal of what you're doing. So whether it's a combative situation, a military situation, or whatever situation it is, you got to keep your eye on the prize. Paul George, you were not able to do that. You sank into a depression that you could not overcome. You sank into a depression that you could not overcome, and technically, you could not handle the bubble. And there were a lot of other people that couldn't. So for all the people that say, oh, you couldn't handle, all the people that say you couldn't handle the bubble, all the people that say, oh, the bubble was so easy, then if it was so easy, then why didn't somebody else win? If it was so easy, why didn't Boston win? If it was so easy, why didn't Miami win? If it was so easy, why didn't Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving come try their luck? Because they was eligible to come play. But you know why Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant didn't come play? The reason why Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant didn't come play when they had an opportunity, why Kyrie Irving was saying, oh, we should do this for social justice, we should do this for social justice, blah, 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 because he knew LeBron was going to win a ring. Because he knew LeBron was the one who had the mental fortitude to keep his team together and to be able to win in the bubble and to be able to win that championship. And Kyrie and Kevin Durant didn't have any kind of cohesiveness. They didn't have any teamwork yet of them being on the court together. So they didn't want to come down to the bubble and under an experiment of them not having played together and end up getting their ass beat by Milwaukee, Miami, Boston, or one of those teams and be looking real silly. So they said, let's get a season under our belt first of us playing together and trying to get some cohesiveness before we can maybe challenge the dominance of one LeBron James. But that's a video for another day, because I'm still going to be coming at y'all with a video of my picks for the playoffs, for the East seeding, and for the West. You know, my preseason picks. It's going to be coming to you real soon. But you know, I just had to get that off my chest about Paul George, who had the audacity to blame Doc Rivers for his failures and his poor play. Because Doc Rivers wasn't on the court out there shooting balls off the side of the backboard and only scoring 10 or 11 points in an elimination game. Don't ever say LeBron James not clutch when you better go look at LeBron James Game 7 numbers. You better go look at LeBron James Game 7 numbers. That's what you need to do. Because that's who the ultimate competitor is. LeBron James, not Paul George. So if you're telling me you gave Paul George 5 years, $120 million, I mean, even with LeBron James' age right now, I would take LeBron James for 3 years before I would take a Paul George for 5 years. So the Clippers, I think they just signed a seal of their fate, that they would not be successful and that they would not make it to NBA Finals. As long as LeBron James and Anthony Davis are together in Los Angeles, it'll never happen. I don't give a damn what they do. I don't care what they do. Because as long as LeBron James and Anthony Davis can stay healthy, it's nobody that's going to beat them, especially with the additions that they've made to the team. So Paul George, please stop crying. If you're watching this, Paul George, please stop crying. Please stop. It's nothing sadder than to see a grown man blame his failures on another grown man. You understand what I'm saying? It's been plenty of times where I haven't been successful, but it's called taking accountability and owning up to your mistakes and to your failures. And then that's how you ultimately become successful. And so until Paul George does that, then he's never going to be successful. So I just had to chime in on that. And then another headline that I saw that really came to my attention was LeBron James winning that Sportsman of the Year award yet again. A lot of people don't count that because it's technically not an NBA award, but I still think it's a hell of an achievement. And I think that is something great that LeBron James' children can look up to him for that, as he has always been and continues to be an excellent role model. So I want to touch on that as well. And then also touch on the fact that Anthony Davis did extend his contract out for another 5 years for him to be the man in LA, for LeBron to be able to pass that torch to him. So with all that being said, I'm looking forward to the season. I'm looking forward to the matchup. Oh, and I did want to touch on the point that LeBron and Anthony Davis not going to play in that preseason opener, and I don't blame them. I mean, NBA preseason is not like NFL preseason. You don't want to risk the chance of injury, and no need to add any wear and tear for a meaningless game. At this point, LeBron James and Anthony Davis know what they need to do. They've been practicing with their new teammates already, so I think they're going to get some good cohesiveness together as far as the chemistry is concerned, and I don't think that'll be an issue on any team, any LeBron James-led team. So once again, this is B New coming at you. I'm saying right on to the real, death to the fakers. Have a happy Friday, everybody. I'm coming at y'all real soon with more. Peace.